watching, and you've watched me for a while, I assume you know that I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate. Now, I've actually not been a fan of Andrew Tate for longer than it was cool. If you actually go look at my first videos, while I wasn't the first person to cover him, it was before he entered the realm of everybody. I don't know why I'm doing this like lap here, like, oh, my ego, I'm Jimmy Snow. I need you all to know that I hated him first. And yet, for some reason, I still want to make sure you knew I hated him. Why? It doesn't matter. Why do I feel competitive about this? This is so fucking stupid. This is so, here I've gone and sworn this one's going to be demonetized, but I'm going to put it up anyway. It's so fucking stupid the way we as creators like are competitive with other creators, but not necessarily directly by name, but also competitive for our place in the space. And so like, I caught what I was doing there and realized like, how fucking gross is this? I've been talking a lot about it actually over on my channel, The Line. And it's funny because people will still very like uncharitably then translate what you're saying. But I've basically been talking about how like to be a creator requires a certain level of ego. Now the word ego is loaded when we hear it and we say ego. It sounds like we're saying, you know, I have an ego, you have an ego. This always sounds like an insult, even though the ego is a part of your personality. Your personality is made up of your ego, your id, and then I think something called your super ego or your hyper ego, and it actually has to do with two different states of things. But there's still this like level of, to even be a creator, to go up on YouTube, you have to say, this is all relevant to Andrew Tate. I'm not just ranting. This is going to come back. You have to say, I think the words that come out of my mouth, the way that I think, the way that I create, whatever I do, I show some level of proficiency either in that art, in that communication, in something that I now want, I would like credit, sometimes in the form of views, sometimes in the form of engagement, comments, people complimenting you, just listening to you. In the case of a person who does it for a living, I would like to make a living off of sharing the proficiency of my voice. And one has to have, again, it's not necessarily negative, but an amount of ego to pull that off. And so then the question becomes when they become egotistical. And I caught myself here at the beginning of the show realizing I was doing that, definitely. I need you to know that before everybody else. That was authentic. None of this is planned. I don't script shit. I don't script anything. I was just being a douche. That's all that was happening there. If I was smart, I would stop recording, delete this file, and never put it out anywhere. Because when you acknowledge your own ego and your own egotistical self that can pop out, people very uncharitably translate that or turn that into something else, and they just shit on you. And you're literally saying like, yo, I'm talking about the human experience. And there are people in comment sections with worse egos than the creators that they are commenting on. And then there are many who are better. But I do think that like there's a level of self-importance one has to have, good or bad, but probably at least minimally delusional in everybody's case, to think I should be in this space, a leader, a thought leader, or some other type of leader of men. A thought leader of men. That brings us perfectly to what I want to talk about. The top G thought leader of men. Well, this didn't work out. I'm showing the wrong screen. This was the screen I wanted to show you. And now when I go to show you, there it is. This guy, Andrew Tate, is a person who when I now am going to refer to ego, I'm gonna mean it as an insult. And listen, the amount of times people use the word narcissist on the internet has really taken the meaning of the word out. And the fact that people now basically see any representation of a person who shows any ego as, they're a narcissist. Anybody who advocates for themselves, anybody who is proud of their accomplishments, anybody who thinks that they're an important part of any machine, the way that they're ready to go, like they had narcissistic personality disorder. You know who else had narcissistic personality disorder? Everybody I dislike. It's ridiculous and it's stupid and it's what the internet's doing. Now allow me to engage in that exact act, I think justifiably, with Andrew Tate, this guy, who in a few days will have one additional thing in common. I don't know when you're going to see this. I don't know when it's going out to everybody, but on Thursday, the 3rd of February, Thursday, the 2nd of February, which day is it? Because I think February 3rd is the channel. No, it's the 3-year anniversary on February 2nd of the channel The Line. On Valentine's Day, it'll be this channel's 5-year anniversary. I'm going to be shaving my head to bald, and I'm going to be taking my beard down to just a goatee. I'm actually doing this because we hit a patron goal for The Line. I'm going to be cosplaying as Matt Dillahunty for a week of shows. What I'm here to say is this guy, if a narcissist is ever, if everybody you thought was a narcissist acted like Andrew Tate, that would be something. If people actually had as many narcissists in their lives as the internet seems to represent that they think they do, or maybe it's just people who tweet and comment a lot who represent that. But if they were as prevalent, the world would be unlivable. Like the actual narcissistic personality disorder is not just somebody who's willing to fuck you over to get ahead. Not to say that isn't still a douchey thing, but y'all anybody who's like pretending they have the means to diagnose anyone, when one of the number one rules of diagnosis is you don't diagnose anybody you aren't treating, is full of shit. So what I'm saying is maybe I'm full of shit as I diagnose this motherfucker with this guy. If a narcissist can just be spotted, I've spotted this one. And people have been sending me this video because apparently this guy who I see on Twitter a lot, Benny Johnson, has tweeted out this speech. I don't know how long into this we are. I'm sorry for the long ramble. If you came just for this, maybe I should time code it or something so you can jump to this part. The beginning part was pretty entertaining, if you do ask me, but then I'm a narcissist. That's a fucking joke. I wish I was a narcissist. I'd prefer it to the shit I do have going up top. It's way worse. Let me get a little sippy sip. This guy. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll down one and then scroll back up.
When you truly understand the level of evil in the world today.
I did that so it would start over. Basically. So he's saying, when you truly understand the level of evil in the day,
then you must understand the only equal and opposite force can be God.
This is the weirdest thing. This is the weirdest thing about Andrew Tate no, it's not that weird, because people who are intelligent, but not intelligent enough to truly separate themselves out, and just by what they do with their intelligence bears out how smart they are. Usually we see this in science, though granted, a lot of geniuses get suppressed because they don't have the resources to show what a genius they are, how great they are at that thing that they are great at, because genius is very often limited to a particular thing or types of things. You can have the people who are the smartest physicists in the world, but they're terrible at everything else. Anyway, those people, you have those people who it's obvious, the Stephen Hawkings of the world. Then you have the people who are more intelligent than the average person, which I declare Andrew Tate is. And I know people are going to go like, no, he's not, blah, blah, blah. He is, don't get me wrong. He says a lot of stupid stuff. A lot of that's because of his intelligence. He fancies himself the most intelligent. And that's a special zone, where you're a certain level of intelligent, but incapable of standing out as a thought leader, as a person capable of some genius. So you start telling everyone how smart you are and that you're far beyond these other levels of intelligence. And so Andrew Tate talks about, there's even like calls between him and other people that have leaked where he's literally talking about like that he is the smartest man alive or among them, that his IQ is higher than anybody else's. And then we've done other videos of him where he goes, and my logic is infallible, unchallengeable. You cannot touch me with that logic. And it turns out you can. You totally can. Because, for example, we're already in just a little ways. And he says, if you see the level of true evil in the world, the only good and basically the reverse of that would be the goodness of the opposite of that evil would have to be God. First of all, nothing about the universe says this has to be balanced. Good and evil are clearly things humans determine, because we only really think about it in relation to us, and then some things we extend that to, like our pets. Vegans will generally give that to any sentient animal, sort of arbitrarily draw the line there. One could draw the line further and start saying it about insects or certain types of insects, or down to whatever. There would also be a level of, if we met an alien race and we thought they were hostile, we'd have a "it's them or us" thing or whatever, and we would consider what we would have conversations about how this good and evil extends. And it's going to be based on the values that we as humans have and the value we put into things. There is no quality of the universe that says that which we find most evil, as you collect it, you put it in a container, or you somehow quantify it, which would be impossible. You've now quantified evil, you've put it in a container, that there has to be a container of good that equals it. That for every M&M, you must have a Skittle. You decide which one's evil, which one's good, it doesn't matter. Nothing says these have to be balanced. These aren't physical things in the universe that have to cancel out, and even physical things in the universe that must cancel out, it turns out they might not cancel out. It may actually be that there isn't an equal amount of antimatter and matter. So there are even things beyond our frickin' understanding with all of that. So you have a situation like this where it is very possible to take all of the evil in the world, and first you have to quantify that and define that, and it's all going to be along human values and what we put value in. It's not going to be about dolphin values or any other living thing that has the ability to even assign value on this level. Once you quantify, it could just be, we could have lived in a world where there was no good, according to what we say right now is the standard of good and evil. But I am not even saying there is more evil than good. Maybe there is. And it wouldn't work in reverse. If you could quantitate all the evil and quantitate all the good, having this amount of good wouldn't necessitate the other amount of evil. And then, even if it did, it wouldn't necessitate a God. It's literally like every step of the way, we go, here's the very core of your argument, it sucks, but let's say we grant it. And then the next level, it sucks too, but let's say we grant it. And then at the next level, it also sucks. Every level of this sucks. It wouldn't have to be a God to balance it out, even if a balance was required. And again, you would have to define how you're going to quantitate that. So if we just go with individual humans and their evil and assign them some sort of score, I can find you a person who's as not Hitler, who's as the opposite as Hitler was Hitler. It's honestly not that hard to find those people. In fact, one might argue that the average person is as much a good person over the line of good to balance out how, like, he's so comically evil that it only takes a little bit of good to drown him out. It's like, that doesn't make entire sense the way I said it out loud, but it does in my head. That it doesn't take much to like be so tremendously better than Hitler. But I understand with the scale way, it actually doesn't work for the metaphor, and I'm not going to cut this out either. I'm going to let the imperfections of my brain as I'm just going show themselves and not double down like this fucking asshole does. On to the next.
Another thing I've argued with atheists about, they don't understand that even God as a concept, even just as a concept, in and of himself becomes a real thing.
No, it's not that we don't understand it. It's that it's gobbledygook. Yes, God technically exists as an imaginary figure the same way everything imaginary does. If you create a concept, but you're not going to dedicate your life to Gandalf because that many people really imagine very clearly and strongly Gandalf in their head. You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get you're not going to start your Gandalfians religion. It doesn't work that way. The concept, yes, the concept of God exists, and you could label that. But when we say, I don't believe in God, we're talking about a universe acting figure, or rather a figure which acts upon the universe. We're not the ones who don't understand, you absolute boob of a person, but not the good kind, the old way people used to call each other a boob, because boobs are really great, useful. I don't know why I would say that.
If you have 1,000 people and those 1,000 people believe in a God, even if there's no man in the sky, but those 1,000 people believe in a God makes them act righteously. But even as a concept in and of itself, God is a real force.
The concept is a real force. God isn't. The concept. And all of that force is human. It's literally the people who do whatever in that name, they were the force. And they had this collective concept that they all communicated around. And it is a concept of that. It is the communication of that. It does not make that thing real. And it does not justify not calling yourself an atheist. Otherwise, you can't say you don't believe in a ton of shit. He's not even a Christian. And this is weird that a Christian like Benny Johnson is like, listen to him. I like these Muslims when they say the words I like. But he doesn't believe in tons of gods that people have unified around as a concept. He doesn't count himself amongst a believer of all of those gods. But the one he does, or maybe he's got a few now because of this stupid thing he's presenting, the one he does claim his theism around, that's the difference between him and I, the one God. We both, I know it's been expressed before, but both of us have not believed in thousands of them, and we certainly wouldn't label ourselves with belief in them like the term theist for me, because I don't believe in Allah, I don't believe in fucking Yahweh, I don't believe in whatever weird version you want, because there's a bunch for the Abrahamic, Elohim, there's another one that's sort of Mormonish. And then also the whole old Mormon beliefs that Adam and God are the same person. That's not newer. Now it's Adam and Michael are the same person. And then gods of other religions, Hinduism and the like. How this man can think, well, I know how it is. He just sort of gave it away. This man thinks other people don't understand his position because he's too smart. He doesn't understand we do understand his position, and that his ego, I know I'm doing the cringy thing I said, but it's such an extreme example. His ego is so large that for you not to agree with him, it must be that you simply don't understand. That does happen all the time, by the way. I'm not saying that that's not a human thing to happen. I'm saying in this case, it hasn't. Look, I tweet and people then in the responses reply to a tweet like I said something I didn't say. It's called straw manning. It happens all the goddamn time. His thing is actually a very simple concept to grasp. It's also presented by deists and pantheists and different people with theist-light beliefs to us all the time. And it's not exciting. And you could call those things by what they actually are, by their concepts, and not say, therefore, the God is real. It's stupid. To say God is a real force, this is sort of what Jordan Peterson does too, or at least used to. Now I think he's just might be full on Christian theistic, but he goes, well, God is very real in the sense that God is what necessitates our worship and our God lobsters and God in Sesame Street. God,
the idea as a force, is making the people act righteously. So God.
The only thing that I really do like, wow, first of all, is the still of that face. I'm not going to suggest what that looks like. Y'all do with it what you will. And by the way, you could easily pause the frame of my video and get a really uncomfortable face from me. Here, I'll make it easy by doing a lot of weird things with my... Pause at any moment. It's going to look whack, but it's still funny. The one thing I could say I do like about Jordan Peterson is he does think Andrew Tate sucks. I think Andrew Tate, I believe I'd heard the story, tried to date his daughter and he was not for it. Anyway, people are acting in righteousness, which is a relative, subjective righteousness. So
God must exist in some form. I understood that.
God, a concept of God does not mean a literal God exists, and the theism which you ascribe to is not justified by there being a concept. Otherwise, this word is meaningless. The concept of theism is meaningless, and now you believe in a lot of more other stupid shit.
The thing that made me stop being an atheist is simply the amount of evil I saw around me. I was like, if this much evil,
that's just, I don't know what to do with that. In fact, a lot of people became atheists because they saw all of the evil that God stands by and let happen. And then they go, well, God has to let that evil happen because he has to grant you your autonomy. You have to be able to make the choice. You have to pass the test, even though the worst evils in the world take away the autonomy and choices from other people. You had to let that adult assault that child in that way so that the adult had the option to do it and could make the choice and show themselves evil, totally taking away the way that will fuck up psychologically that kid for the rest of their life, change the way they interact with adults, change the way that they trust people, change the way they have relationships. In many cases, everything is universal, but in many cases it's going to do that. Literally these things that God has to let you have the choice to take choices away from other people. It's a stupid thing to say, but then in here to say, I saw this much evil, that's honestly where a lot of people start. Wait, God's an all good knowing being and he's letting this much happen?
Satan is going to appear. If Satan appears in front of you, you're going to have to say, okay, well then God must be real.
No, also not technically true. If Satan literally appeared in front of you, which by the way, didn't happen, he's saying if the metaphor of Satan appeared in front of me, then God must be real, but he means in a very non-metaphorical sense. No real Satan has been in front of you. But what rules that weren't made up by dudes motivated by their peepees, what rules that aren't just made up on the spot says if Satan existed, the God which opposes him must also? None. If Satan literally showed up, you would only have confirmed the existence of Satan. It'd be weird. It'd be conspicuous. You'd go, wait, are you the Satan from the Bible? And therefore is the Bible whatever, whatever? And he might say, nah, dude, I wrote the Bible too. That was here's the thing. I was like, I'm evil. I want you guys to do these things. And all I had to do to make you do these things is tell you that the great prime goodness in the sky thinks you're right and everybody else is wrong. It was way more effective. The easiest thing. Like that show where Satan and I think it's Gabriel or something, they're watching the crucifixion and the devil comes up and he's like, what'd he do? And I think it was Gabriel. I don't remember. I've only seen a piece of it. It's some Amazon show. And he's like, he told him to love each other. And the Satan character was like, yep, that'll do it. Like, that's why they killed him. I get it. Okay, cool. Yeah. Makes sense to me. Like, there's actually not anything that necessitates, even if you met actual Satan, which you didn't. You didn't meet Satan. That's the stupid thing. That's the grift. That's the scam. Because he's saying, if you meet, and he's talking about a metaphorical Satan, he never met Satan, then the real God must be. Why? Prove that. Prove that. Why must that exist in a balance? Why couldn't there be a universe with only Satan, only the devil, more evil than good? Why couldn't that happen? You said must. Why must? I know you can't hear me from prison, but, if you do figure out a way to buy yourself out of that problem, you're welcome to come on and defend it. Andrew Tate, people want me to debate. And I've been asked to do a ton of debates, especially now that I've been doing more on the line. I'm getting invites all the time. And that's the one thing I don't do much. But I would with a character of a certain amount of profile. If it was literally something like, yeah, okay, because that's going to bring a ton of eyes to the line or Jimmy Snow's channel. Yeah, fine, I'll do it. He's one of those ones where it's I turn down a lot because I'm like, no, I guess if you pay me enough, I'll do it. But this person's not capable of debating me. It would just feel like a bloodbath. But he has both. He'd be easy to defeat in debate, easy to defeat in debate. And he'd be a high profile character. I'd do it for free. You can come on my channel. I'll even put timers up where I'm not allowed to talk. You get a certain amount of time. You can try and gish gallop your way through your hard consonants. And I get to make that joke because I hit hard consonants.
Who would attempt to destroy the baseline morality that was God-given? Satan.
You just said who would attempt to do that was God-given. You literally are dependent on an argument that grants that God exists. God exists because of the existence of evil, which is the opposite of good, which God created. That's circular reasoning, you idiot.
So if Satan is trying to destroy our morality, then God must be real.
Nope. Literally not. Satan could only oppose not the morality of God, but the morality that humans came up with. If Satan existed. The good news is Satan doesn't exist. There's no reason to believe that Satan or God exists.
So, equal and opposite forces, Newton's law proved God.
Oh my God. Newton's law does not suggest that everything which can be quantified must have a balance. He's talking about every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And they're talking about forces. So, for example, every human in the world could die, and except me. And that could make me very angry. And I could scream about it with so much rage. There is no universal force that has anything to do with Newtonian shit that says then the same amount of elation and happiness has to come from somewhere in the universe. Somebody has to balance out how angry I am with, because then I could die a moment later. Now all humans have died and this human reaction hasn't been balanced out. It could be just me. This is a person who likes to use terms that basically touch complex concepts and act as though this is Deepak Chopra level bullshit. What did Benny want to say?
Proof of God's existence from Andrew Tate. One of the best arguments I've ever heard.
Well, Benny Johnson, that's one of the worst arguments I've ever heard. So clearly you're not looking for good arguments, because I can actually point you to good ones. The ones that actually appeal at least a little bit more to people, that you do have to get past some depth. And again, why would this necessitate? I would be more challenged, even though I know how to handle it because I've done it 1,000 times. This stupid thing of there's evil, therefore there's God, is way easier to dispatch with than the kalam, which is pretty easy to dispatch with. Argument of morality, arguments of consciousness, the fine-tuning argument, all of which I actually wouldn't say are particularly difficult. And then if you want a more annoying argument, because there's no way to actually engage in the argument, it's literally, I'm too stupid, which makes me extra right, you could go with presuppositionalism. At least you'd be frustrated, because you can't win against, no one can win because it's not an actual argument. No one can win on either side. A presup can't win, nor can you win against a presup. It's self-defeating, basically. The idea of presupposition being anything more than what is minimally necessitated, such as literally just the minimal position of, I presume the information I'm taking from my senses reflect an actual reality around me. The moment you get more complex than that, things become scrutinizable. And one could even say that we may not always have to presume even that first thing, but presuppositionalism is also super stupid. 30 minutes on a 1 minute short, I think I just did there. But he annoys me. Andrew Tate, whew, you know, I couldn't have happened to a worse person. Well, that's not true. He's not Hitler level evil. He's just a douche. He's really just a douche. But the problem with how big of a douche he is how successfully he influences other people and convinces other people to be douches. I've watched enough of his content, especially the shorts like that, where I actually see why he's appealing. He does successfully identify things that frustrate a lot of young men. And barriers and things that people want a shortcut for, a shortcut to money, a shortcut to romance, a shortcut to sex, all of those things, and then creates this world where you're the victim, but you can stop being the victim by becoming the hero. I mean, if you ever heard him talk about like if terrorists, if I was eating dinner in Paris and terrorists came up, I'd be doing this. I take out the first terrorist, get his AK, then I'm taking out, and he's like acting like he's the star of a John Rambo movie. The guy's insane. The guy. Stop calling everybody you don't like on the internet a narcissist. He's a narcissist though, right? Like that's the thing that he is. I'm not going to have hair soon. I mean, it'll come back quickly. It doesn't stay gone. I like when people look up as though they're addressing their hair like, hey, up there, how you doing? I'm coming for you soon. But I can't physically see that hair. It's like the canopy of my, whatever. I think I can make out little pieces of my eyebrows, but that's it. It's not possible. Hey, I'm Jimmy Snow. Check me out. Become a patron. I've started putting out exclusive content to patrons. That's the thing I'm doing now. Where if I just like really go off and I'm like, YouTube's not going to monetize this. And they'll also give my channel a little secret tick, what we call sort of like it's almost like a micro shadow banning, not quite a shadow ban, but it's like a saying like, he's getting more controversial. Maybe be more careful before you put more out. I'm just throwing that shit straight on Patreon from now on. So patreon.com/Mr. Atheist, I think it is. Andrew Tate, I'll debate you anytime. I'd say any place, but from my home preferably. And you can't come to my home. This is my safe place. This is my happy place. You just ruin it. Like all of your relationships. All right, love you all. Bye.